favorite on the road against Zorya Luhansk. And no, that one is not being played in Ukraine. So it is now a half hour to go, which means on Thursdays we bring in somebody else to talk stuff. That's the official term. And so the guy's got his own opening. He's got his own intro. So we're going to play that right now and catch up with Thursdays with our man Niko. Beat 234. Niko Moreno, Pulso Sports, the soccer bar. Niko, it is a full house this week. It is you, it is me, it is Nick, and it is Jarrett. It is a fatal four-way this week. Welcome aboard.
All right, I like that back line of four. How you doing, everybody? Happy to see you all here. Big thank you to John for having me on, as always. A good hello to Atlanta, the East, and everyone watching, the one and only SDH. Big Wednesday, lots to talk about. Let's do it.
Nick, go.
All right, thoughts from last night, man. What did you see? What made you happy? What made you worried?
Ooh, that's a convoluted question. If obviously not the way you asked it, but so many answers. I think what I see is the Wild West in general, and I mean that there is no sheriff, there is no real team that's taking over the Western Conference. I think that's what I see. It's very tight. I can't remember the last time I could sit here and tell you guys that there isn't a clear favorite in the West. I mean, if you look at it, not just the standings, but the play, the current form, all the way from San Luis down to Portland even, it's anybody's game, man. You know, Portland's gaining points. They're gaining a little bit of confidence. The LAFC San Luis game showed you right now that even those two teams, you don't really know who is the better team. It used to be LAFC has the stars. They have the power. They're going to go in there and dominate teams. San Luis kept up with them yesterday. They played physical. They took the ball in certain parts of this game from LAFC. They created chances. No Vela, no Long in this one. You could see the difference in the final third. They just weren't as crisp. San Luis just gave him everything they had, and he just stayed there, right? The Seattle Sounders as well, they have problems of their own. They go against the worst team in the Western Conference. They get a win, but it wasn't a dominant win. I mean, it was dominant in terms of them playing to their tempo, creating all the chances, walking around the field with the ball at will. But when it comes to finishing, when it comes to just running over Colorado, they didn't do that, right? They miss a couple of half chances. They continue to try to find their way into being just more fluid, more dynamic at times. At the end of this game, the sub saying that Chris Little, former Sounder organization coach and Tacoma Defiance coach, his substitutions really made a difference, and they put Seattle under some pressure. They get a goal back. It's a 2-1 win. So all in all, the West is what I see. What makes me happy, Seattle gets a point. What makes me worried is that, once again, it's anybody's game in the West.
Jarrett, go.
And as we can shift it to the East, I need to know if I'm crazy or not. Because I'm trying to figure out if I'm crazy, in that I'm giving a very intense side eye to Cincinnati. They're going to win the Shield. That's fine. It's a team that keeps rescuing things late. Am I crazy for not trusting them come playoff time? When you get into the playoffs and you go behind, it's a different animal to crawl back into games.
You're not crazy. And it's tough to say why that reason, right? Because all the stats, all the numbers would tell you that this is the best team in MLS. You look at their roster, you look at them on paper, but there's a couple of teams that go against them. One, history, right? Every supporting Shield team that has done great in the regular season tends to struggle in some way, either not make it to the finals or they fall short. So you have that going in terms of your point of view. And then it's the play, what we've seen recently, and how Vasquez just doesn't seem as lethal as he did last year, and how that final third with Bapuenza still seems to need to kind of get in gear, right? You bring a new guy, a DP, you need him to work well, and you're still in the process of getting that going. They're still a very good team, right? They press right, they defend right, they do all their fundamentals correctly, but they just don't look like a team that is, 8 points above in the shield race, right? So I get the apprehension. I think is well founded, and would it surprise me if they are a dud in the playoffs? No, because like I said, there is some things that can tell you that a team that does this well early can struggle. Yeah, but again, it's just that. It also wouldn't surprise me that it all comes together. Everything's all right. Santiago Arias looked really good yesterday. Barral is probably going to be in the last season in MLS here. He's going to have a great finish to this season. Can Vasquez find it again? Can he become, in the last couple of games, that poacher, that target forward that they need him to be, perhaps? So it's a little bit of both, but I don't think you're crazy, and that was your question.
So let me get in my weekly Messi and Friends question.
Oh.
And I've made a point of this morning. Oh, which cup of coffee are you on, 1 or 2?
Oh, this is 2, baby. Oh, this is 2. Yeah, I've been up early, setting up for Soccer Bar. I had a radio call in Uruguay, so it's been a busy morning.
All right, so my Messi and Friends question goes along the lines of this week. I'm thinking, all right, Messi and Friends, they got to do their thing, and it's, you got Toronto, and then you got the matchup against the purple team this week. It's a chance to continue to move up the table. I start Messi on my fantasy team. I captain Messi on my fantasy team. I start Jordi Alba because it's a double match week. Exactly. So 37 minutes is how long Messi lasts. Jordi Alba, I don't think lasted that long. Yeah. And they still put 4 on Toronto because, well, frankly, everybody puts 4 on Toronto. Where are you where Messi and Friends are? And basically, like Nick has maintained, you need to put Messi on ice until Open Cup final.
Yeah. I mean, in a nutshell, I've been told you guys that I'm done doubting Messi. I'm done doubting Tata. So I think they still make the push for the playoffs. I think that DC United is a pretender. I think that Montreal is an even more pretender. I'm not a believer in Losada. I think that they lack consistency. I think they drop games regardless of what they just recently did. And DC United as well. I do think that there is a chance that Miami gets there. When it comes to Messi and putting him on ice, I was shocked, to say the least, that I saw him in that starting rotation, because it was Toronto that you were playing. I mean, you could have put the kids, you could have put, John at goalkeeper and me at, the 6, and, we might have done okay against this Toronto team. So all in all, I was surprised. I think that they unnecessarily risked their best player and the player that makes them immortal, right? Without Messi, they're mortal. And now you have to worry about exhaustion, right? Because Tata talked to the press. He said there's no way he's playing the next game, right? And him or Jordi, it's not something that is seems to be a severe injury, but it's just something that just they need to be taken off the field. First Alba, then Messi. You could see that they were fatigued. Messi was kind of bent over, holding his knees. I mean, he was tired. There was obviously some discomfort. So you take him off. You're starting to unnecessarily run the wheels of this bus, and you just don't have to do that, right? And then you saw it after Robert Taylor comes in. He's taking huge strides, huge strides. I mean, he cooked Toronto yesterday. As soon as he came in for Messi, Messi touched him, gave him the powers of the mighty Messi, and he just looked great. I mean, you couldn't get the ball off his feet. He was dangerous. That goal from the top of the box where I don't know what Toronto's doing, just allowing one player to follow him, whenever you're just watching with popcorn in their hands. Lord have mercy. And then he just takes that shot, cross post from the goalkeeper. He assisted. He got that last goal where he receives the ball, looks up, puts it away in the angle. I mean, he was just fantastic. So you have the players that are showing you that they can do it, and yet you risk Messi and Alba. I think he should have sat him down, started the game, and if you needed him, you break the emergency glass and you bring in Messi. But he doesn't do that, so it does worry me for the future of this team where Messi's at. So with the assumption that Messi's okay and maybe he's just going to rest one game and even put in doubt his presence, obviously, for U.S. Open Cup, then I would still think that Messi and friends make it to the playoffs, but he could stumble upon their Open Cup chances.
Nick, go for it.
Look, I understand where Apple is right now. They're trying to do their documentary series. They're trying to, put as much media out as humanly possible about anything that ties in Messi. I remember in the Mercedes-Benz press for the Atlanta-Miami game, you had Argentine officials, Argentine sports reporters. You had, the list was pretty nuts. I understand what they're trying to do, but I'm with Niko here. I'm done doubting that Messi is anything other than just one of the best, if not the best, regardless of who he's playing with or where he's playing. He legitimately seems very happy here. But that doesn't mean that Miami should feel any pressure to put him on the field when he's not feeling 100%. I am stunned that he played in that game last night. I would not have done that, especially coming off of missing the game in Atlanta. If anything, I would have felt pressure to be like, no, Messi, you're sitting out on this one. So it makes it easier for us to be like, hey, look, he was injured then, or he felt it then, he felt it now. This is legitimate. We're freezing him until the Open Cup final. That's just me on there. I think the question is can Miami get it done to get into the playoffs? That's the big thing for me, because that big 4-0 win last night seems to showcase that if you're not playing Atlanta, Miami has the ability to put goals on you no matter what, which is pretty scary for everyone else in the East.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, if you look at the schedule, I mean, they got some very, I don't want to say easy, but easy games. Not easy, but maybe winnable games, if you say so, right? New York City FC is hard to determine. Honestly, they are yawn to watch these days. They look anemic. They seem to be out of sorts. That derby against the Red Bulls was probably one game I want to take back from watching late night, because it was honestly hard to stay awake for. They have Charlotte twice, and Charlotte is another team that doesn't scare anybody. There's a clear dysfunction upstairs of that attacking with Swiderski and Copetti. They don't seem to fit, and not just that, but in general senses, they're not a team that you think is going to be able to take on your Miami. Then you got Chicago, who is just there to fill in the spaces and fill in the schedule, but they're really not going to be able to do anything in Miami. So I really do believe that there is a chance that they can still make it.
All right, before we get into red light, yellow light, green light, I have to ask, what's up with this rebrand up there in the Northwest?
Hey, hey, that's a big topic, and that's a sensitive topic over here in the Northwest. I don't mind it. I mean, I am a realistic, and I, grown up watching Atletico Nacional all my life. They've been rebranded several times. I think it's just part of soccer, to be honest. This team has not changed their logo since entering MLS in 2009. It's kind of I appreciate the shield. I think that it has obviously a rooted sense for anybody who's followed that team since they came into MLS. But there's also been rebrand since the beginning of this team back in '74, right? So with that said, I think that it is time, and there's nothing wrong with rebranding as long as you do it correctly. And if anything else, this organization takes in consideration their fans. And they've done a bunch of polls, and they've asked the alliance members, and they have, for everything that I've been hearing, they thought about removing the Space Needle because, in all honesty, it doesn't really carry any true Seattle Pacific Northwest roots, right? It's a corporate thing. It's a structure that reminds you of Seattle, and it says Seattle, but it's privately owned. I mean, it's not necessarily something that talks to the Seattle soccer community. But even knowing that they could remove that, they talk to the fans. Fans say no. Space Needle says Sounders, so they're going to keep it. So to conclude the very touchy subject, I think that Seattle Sounders is going to do it right. I have confidence that this new shield, the rebrand, is going to have enough from the old crest combined with maybe bringing it to this century or to this era with a better design. So I think it'll be okay. I understand the fans being nervous, apprehensive about the colors and, losing their identity. And you look at the first Chicago rebrand and you look at the Columbus rebrand. I understand why you would feel like it's very easy to get it wrong, but I think Seattle will get it right.
All right. So it is time, and what we always do with Niko, and I'm going to include Nick in this week since Nick has made it to the end of the show. It is time to play red light, yellow light, green light. And for those of you that have not seen this particular part of the show, who's got the red light? Who's basically what team in Major League Soccer is stuck at the intersection with the hood up and the engine and the transmission have fallen out, and there's no way that they need to get a wrecker and they need to call AAA. Is something seriously wrong. Yellow light, the way that it works is that it can go either one of two ways. It is a team that is ready to speed through the intersection. That light turns yellow. They're speeding through the intersection. They're ready to go green. They want to make it through. They want to keep pushing. Or it's a team that heard a noise when they were touching the brakes. They're hearing the brake pad squeak, and so they're not going to speed through the intersection, and they're going to kind of sit there and heading toward the red light, like the car in the other lane that's sitting there waiting for the wrecker. Green light. Who's got the green light? Who's doing well this week? Who's really storming through everything? Who doesn't worry about what the stoplight says above their head? They're just plowing through the intersection. They're in the speed. They're in the acceleration lane on the freeway. Nothing's going wrong. All right. So, Niko, since Niko is the visitor, he will start. What direction do you want to go first?
Let's start with red light.
All right.
Let's start with red light because I got something to say about red, and it's a red mayor, and we've talked about it in the past, and that they are the governor of Red Light Town. But I've never been so sure that there needs to be a wrecking ball to just smash Toronto FC's roster and rebuild it from the beginning, right? I mean, this Inter Miami team, it took them 30 plus minutes to settle into this game. And even then, this Toronto team was slow in transition. They looked like they've never played together. There was a time where Osorio was on a fast break and he passes the ball to clear space, and Vasquez doesn't run to the ball, and it just is easily intercepted by Inter Miami. They made this Inter Miami almost defensive looking team in the way that they were trying to come at it and trying to be a counter team with the way they set up to just own the ball. They allowed them to just own the ball, and they just weren't able to make any sort of presence on the field. Insigne is playing on his own. Kremasky's playing on Bernadeschi's playing on his own. They're just worrying about team me, taking shots half space. Insigne more than one time bad on the ball, bad on dribbling, bad on decision making. All he was worried about was trying to take a mid-range shot that might go in. It was just a dysfunctional team. So the red light is because I don't see how you don't just figure out what two pieces you might keep from this car and you just take it apart. Take it apart, rebuild it completely. It was an awful performance by Toronto. Yes, Inter Miami has some really good pieces, some young pieces, but 4-0, man, I mean, they just got completely owned. Red light for sure.
Nick, who's your red light this week?
My red light is going to be, it has to be Toronto, because I think they're in a bad situation right now. From a contract perspective, you have designated players who don't want to be there anymore. You spend a ton of money on players who have not performed for you. And the hopes were so, it's not just that you invested this money in players who were very, very good, but the hope was there as well, that whenever they started off, it looked like it was going to be Toronto just throttling the rest of the league, and then it fell off a cliff. I don't know how they get back from this, because they seem to make questionable decision after questionable decision. I don't think Herdman's the person who you want running that team. He didn't show me anything with Canada. He didn't in his decision making generally seems to be quite poor from a soccer perspective.
Yeah. So
he's a bluster guy, probably a very good wrestling manager, but probably not a very good soccer coach. It's an absolute, the light matches the jersey. So it's red across the board.
Niko, yellow light. What direction are you going?
Oh man, I might get canceled or maybe attacked here in the Pacific Northwest, especially in this city. But I'm gonna give the yellow light to Portland, man. And they're 5 games unbeaten. It seems like after Giovanni Savarese, this team decided, okay, we're gonna actually fight hard on the field. In those 5 unbeaten, they beat LAFC 2-0. They drew the Seattle Sounders after going down 2 goals. They beat RSL. And then yesterday, they beat down San Jose. They do it by being very vertical. They have simplified the way they play. They did it without Diego Charad, that we wish him all the best. He had surgery for a medical condition. He's doing well, I hear. So good for him. So they did it without their guy, without that anchor in the midfield and the guy that gives them leadership and reassurance and everything that Diego Chara does for this team. So I got to give it to him, man. It seems like defensively they've gotten better. Offensively, like I said, they simplified. Santiago Moreno, who wanted nothing to do with Portland, was getting ready to leave, all of a sudden has been revamped, re-energized, and he looks great. Evander does it all, has scored, I want to say 3 games in a row already. Does it in many different ways, mid-range. He gets close. He helps link play. Because of the Diego Chara problems, he's dropped back a line. He's played at the 10. He's done it all. So Evander is looking great. And he seems to have finally realized that he's a key component for this team, and he's got to play as such. Between Mora and Bolly, they're a very good team up top with a lot of options in that 9 position. So I really think that this Portland team can be a problem if they get to the playoffs. It's not easy because their goal differential is abysmal. But if they make it, man, watch out. watch out because this Portland team is got some momentum.
All right, Nick, your yellow light once again. It can either be a team that's got squeaky brakes or a team that's just plowing through into a green light. What do you got?
Orlando City is my yellow light. I know that we don't like talking about the Purple Kitties up here in Atlanta, but that 2-0 loss to New York City, I think, exposes some doubts, maybe exposes a little bit of weaknesses here and there. And for a team that's second in the East, you are in a position right now where it is your 2 points, right, from this sort of middle of the pack where Columbus, Philly, and New England are. And then you're sitting right there, close to 6 and 7. So it is a very thin margin of error for Orlando City right now. I mean, Cincinnati's running away with the East. That's fine. But 2 through 7, it's going to be a knife fight all the way to the end. So if I'm looking at somebody with a little bit of a skeptical eye, a little bit of caution, it might be Orlando City, because that pressure is going to really start mounting on that 2 spot. And Orlando has shown us more than once that in high pressure situations that team has a tendency to fold. So that's somebody I got my eye on.
Green light, Niko. Who is it this week?
Green Light is a team that has been there before, but that they were a little shaky. And I'm talking about the Columbus Crew. They lost a game they shouldn't have lost against Orlando. They've showed us that they have some holes in their defense. Sometimes playing wing backs or fullbacks as center backs doesn't always work, and they continue to do it. I know that Nancy wants guys that they run, they're good on the ball, they have certain presence, and that means that it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be center backs. But sometimes you need some of those rough grinders, man. Sometimes you need those guys that are going to just clog the gaps. They're going to work, they're going to duel. But they go and they put 3-0 on Chicago. Yes, it's Chicago, I get it. Anybody can do that. But Cucho Hernandez, man, that hat trick, he gives them just a different feel. And Cucho, he's just starting to get some inertia behind him. And if he is like a bus downhill without brakes, you better watch out, because he might just creep up and completely take this team all the way to the final, because they're that good up top. I think every single game, him and Rossi getting a better mindset. They are becoming what we were seeing with Lucas Larayan in him. And when you put that across with the co-stellar group, right, those pieces around them that work so well together, man, they're just very, very good. Like I said, it worries me sometimes that they're a little too open, and in that midfield, neither Nagby or Morris are real disruptors, real all-around sixes that are just going to lock it down. So that worries me a little bit, because it opens them up well. But they can go and beat down any team offensively, man. They can just – they have goals for days. So big credit to Nancy, credit to the players that were brought in here. But they're my green light, and they're the team that I'll continue to say that I will take in the playoffs, because they're never out of any game.
All right, what's going on at Pulso Sports in the Soccer Bar, my friend?
All righty, Pulso Sports. We just recently came from a big week of some great interviews. Have Alex Roldan talking about Hispanic Heritage Month, his journey, how tough it was for him to get to where he's at. He's one of the faces of Hispanic Heritage Month, and wanted to give him that stage to have to talk to us. We also have a couple of really good soccer bar projects coming up that will be out next week, so just go ahead and wait for that. But today, because of a little bit of a change of schedule, we're gonna be on Soccer Bar at 10 a.m. today.
All right. So, Nick, who is your green light this week as we head toward the close of the show?
Houston's my green light. What Houston's doing right now, I don't think any of us expected. Ben Olsen to go in and have this kind of effect. He really had stagnated to such a tremendous level at DC that, I personally thought his coaching career was done. But to see what he's able to do with Houston, 41 goals, only 33 allowed, that they're going to be very, very competitive going forward. I mean, that is, when you talk about a team that can score, a team that is solid defensively, they're going to be consistent. I don't think, and they're going to get a home game. And I don't think Houston is a place where anybody wants to go and play right now. So as Vancouver showed, yeah, it's a long flight. That's what I mentioned yesterday on our bets. But if you're coming from the Pacific Northwest and you are having to play Houston, I'm not looking forward to that. And if you are one of these other teams like a San Jose or a Portland that may have to go and visit Houston, nope, not interested in any of that. And they're steady enough where if they do have to go and play a St. Louis or a Seattle, I don't think they're going to be as rattled to go to those situations and be competitive. I just don't. So to me, my green light is going to be the Houston Dynamo, which kind of is concerning for me to say because I never would have expected myself to say that, but here we are.
No, yeah, I think Houston is in that Columbus Crew type of boat where they're not at the top of the table, but nobody wants to play them. I mean, they really don't. And I never thought I'd say that of a team with Barrett as their number 9 or as their leading goal scorer, but man, they just look good.
All right, here's what to watch before we go, because we aim to have an informed viewership here and listenership. Here's where you can go to watch all your stuff. ACC Network's got college soccer at 6 and 8 on the women's side. NWSL on CBS Sports Network at 10, Angel City in Orlando. FS2 going on right now. If you care, it's the Saudi Pro League. I don't. Longhorn Network's got Texas Tech on the women's side at 8. SEC Network has Ole Miss and Vanderbilt at 7. TNT has your women's friendly USA South Africa at 7:30. It's the last match for Julie Ertz. 2 to NA has Europa League doubleheader, 12:45 and 3. Linz, Liverpool, Brighton, and AEK. Unimas has your simulcast of Linz and Liverpool. Universo has your simulcast of the women's friendly at 7:30. 5 matches on ACC Extra on the women's side for ACC college soccer. ESPN Plus, 4 West Coast games on the men's side. A lot of women's action starting at 12:05 with Southern Indiana and Little Rock, ending, good Lord, they've got like 100 matches with 4 matches at the 10 o'clock hour. Paramount Plus, we said they've got all your Europa and all your Europa Conference League stuff. Argentine Primero, they've got 4 matches. Belgrano Platense at 4. Union Santa Fe Godoy Cruz at 5:30. Argentinos Juniors, Tijeras Cordoba at 6:15. River Plate and Atletico Tucumán at 8. Brasileiro, triple header. Vasco da Gama Curitiba at 6. Atletico Paranaense Internacional at 6:30. Gremio Palmeiras at 8:30. Plus the NWSL match. Peacock also has the simulcast of USA and South Africa. SEC Network has 7 matches in college women's soccer. VIX has your simulcast of everything going on for a Europa League, Europa Conference League. That's a show. We're out of here. I'm out of breath. He's Niko. He's Nick. Jarrett is long gone. Played safe, everybody. We're going to do this again tomorrow, 9 o'clock, for all the stuff to get you ready for another weekend. Played safe, everybody. Mucha plata, y'all. It's the end of the show. That means I get to do this. Catch your breaths. Enjoy your lunch. We'll see you tomorrow.